Hi, I'm Amy. I am a homeschooling mom of three boys. We follow the Charlotte Mason philosophy, and this video is about putting together my schedule for my year one student. My oldest child just turned 6, but I've been reading and learning about the Charlotte Mason philosophy since he was a little baby. So this has been a long time coming. Now, I do have two younger children. The next is only 16 months younger, so I will only have one student for a very short amount of time. And then number 3 is 2.5 years younger than number 2. And I'll get into what my two younger kids do while we're doing formal lessons after I show you my schedule. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how I keep a good mentality about my curriculum and my scheduling plans, because as you know, when you have little kids, nothing ever quite goes to plan. So I think it's important to have the right attitude going in so that you don't feel like too much of a failure when things don't go your way. So I'm going to show you my schedule now on my screen and talk you through how I went about putting it together. So this is my year one schedule. You can see that I have this in a Google spreadsheet. I really like keeping my stuff all online rather than on my computer because every once in a while I want to be able to refer to it when I'm out and about. And it's really helpful to be able to access this through the app on my phone, because I don't tend to carry a printed schedule of this around with me. So you can see I've got my schedule divided into 3 sections. I have morning basket, school time, and tea time. So morning basket is everything that my nearly 5-year-old can be reasonably expected to be in on. So that includes singing. We alternate between learning a hymn and a folk song each day. That includes our poem, which he loves. Memory work. I've got a couple things picked out for this. I don't have it written down because I want the flexibility of being able to decide, oh, we really liked that poem, so we're going to start memorizing that, or this Bible verse came up in Sunday school, and so we're going to memorize that. So I have things printed out in my master binder, but I don't have it written into my schedule, mostly to remind me to just stay flexible. He can be included in on our French and listening to our Bible reading, and then he loves listening to our free reads. My decision for free reads with my nearly 5-year-old is that he's just going to stick with my 6-year-old, because eventually my third child will be hearing these same free reads, and I expect that he'll listen to them again when we read them aloud for number 3. So I'm not super worried about him listening in and participating with his brother on this, mostly because they've been listening to the same read alouds for a long time now. So I know he's more than capable of appreciating what we're reading to our 6-year-old, and it's just nice to really include him in on what we're doing with that. School time is exactly what it sounds like. It's formal lessons, sitting down, and this I do not expect my nearly 5-year-old to participate in. So we've got reading practice. Right now we are working through Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. We started that last autumn, and we have about 25 lessons left. So that'll take us through the end of this term, and then we'll start incorporating proper books for him to practice reading with. And then we have the Ambleside Online readings. We are taking pretty much all of them this year. Like I said, we live in the UK, but AO starts with British history, which is perfect for us. And then we alternate between reading and a narration and some other sort of lessons. So Charlotte Mason talks about alternating the types of lessons, and that's exactly what I've tried to do here. MEP, Mathematics Enhancement Program, is the math lessons that we're doing. So we do that after our first reading. We have a second reading, and then we have handwriting practice. And then I have this little slot called Reading Catch Up, because every once in a while in the schedule, we just have a little bit too much to fit nice and neatly into this little grid. And so we use that as a little bit of overflow time. Now, coming down here into tea time, in my mind, when I set this up, this was going to be something that we do in the afternoon while the 2.5-year-old is having a nap, something that's maybe a little bit more complicated to get out when there are little people running around, but also things that my nearly 5-year-old could be certainly expected to participate in. It's not working quite like that in practice, mostly because my 2.5-year-old is really determined to give up napping. So best laid plans and all that. What has happened is we tend to do picture study on a Monday, but we tack it onto the end of our lessons. So usually on Monday, we're pretty fresh and we're able to have a little bit more going on at the end of lessons. Jumping ahead to Thursday, we have what I call a co-op, and these meet every other week. So every other week we have a nature study at my house, and then on alternate weeks we have a little co-op, and we do a handicraft at the co-op. So this means that at a bare minimum, we are doing nature study and handicraft every other week. Now, that's not in my book ideal, but I'm going to take it because we're just getting started. It is hard to have 2 other younger kids pulling you in different directions. And, I think that this is good enough for us to get a good groundwork in, and it's an area where we can grow. So the handicraft on Wednesday doesn't always happen, although as my kids are learning stuff in our little co-op, they are asking to do a bit more at home. So sometimes that comes up pretty naturally and I don't have to enforce it. Drawing practice, again, I tend to use things online, and because that requires the computer to be out, I'm a bit reluctant to do that with the toddler on the loose. So that's something that's fallen by the wayside a little bit. But I'm hoping to get to a point where, again, just like we tack picture study onto the end of our lessons on a Monday, I'm hoping that we can stick drawing practice to the end of our lessons on a Tuesday. And that I'd be really pleased with that. Now, we have only had to have lessons 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which is fantastic. And we've occasionally done lessons on a Friday if we wanted to be free on a Monday to do something else, like go to a birthday party. But for the most part, the 4-day week is working well for us, and we're ready for a break on Friday. On Friday, I do have scheduled that we might read from our free read. We might read from our poetry book. We might go on a nature walk or do geography. What I'm finding is that, again, because it's a little bit different, it's hard to really be accountable to this. What we did the last 2 weeks of our term this year, this last half term, was do a sort of mini school on a Friday where I let the kids pick out some books that they want to read. Sometimes it's our free read. Sometimes it's something else we're reading. Sometimes they want to read our poem. Sometimes if we've overlooked some of our riches during the week, we'll put that into mini school, and geography I'll put into mini school as well. We've had atrocious weather, which I realize is not meant to be an excuse to stay indoors, but we've had weather warnings and just horrible wind and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that as the weather starts to turn towards spring, that this becomes more of an outside morning and we're able to get out and about and enjoy the springtime weather. So that is what our schedule looks like. And again, the Ambleside Online website has all of the readings divided up by weeks. And so I literally just went in and copy and pasted into the schedule I picked out. So that's my schedule. But I want to talk about 2 more things before I wrap up this video. First of all, what do my other kids do while we are having lessons? Well, I already mentioned that my 5-year-old actually participates in a lot of what we do. And even if it's not morning time, even if I'm reading school books to my older child, I will still try to include him and let him listen in when he wants to. He doesn't like having to wait for the narrations. He'd rather me just read straight through the story. So he's not always super interested in this part, but that's always welcome. And my 2.5-year-old loves singing with us, and he likes to listen to the stories too. So he often will come and just sit on my lap and engage with what we are doing at the table. My kids are always welcome to go and play, and we do have a fair amount of resources available to them that they can get out on their own. So we have Duplo, we have Train Track, we have colored pencils and paper and coloring books. We have a really great toy called Pattern Play, which I'll put the link to below, which my nearly 5-year-old really loves to do. And he makes up his own patterns and uses the cards, and he'll sit at the table with us and just listen to us crack on with our lessons while he is busy with that at the table. So we are definitely set up to let the kids get out what they want to get out and to occupy themselves as they see fit. Of course, the other thing that my younger kids do is get into mischief, which is just part of it, isn't it? And so, nothing's perfect, and I do have to spend a reasonable amount of time breaking up arguments and changing diapers and making snacks and just keeping things going. And that really brings me to the last thing I want to talk about, which is how to deal with well-made plans that just don't unfold the way we want them to. One of the things I keep in mind is a quote from Teaching from Rest by Sarah McKenzie, where she says, "Curriculum is a good servant, but a bad master." I am not beholden to my schedule. I am responsible for making it work for my family, my kids. So if that means that we get a little bit behind, or if we don't get everything done in a day that I want to get done, then you know what? That just happens. Charlotte Mason says that education is an atmosphere, and our kids are learning how to go with the flow and deal with interruptions and continue on despite those setbacks by the way, and they learn how to do that from the way we deal with that in our own homeschools, dealing with our own plans going awry. The second piece of advice that I've really taken to heart over the start of year 1 is from Brandy Venzel, where she talks about scheduling for these early years of formal lessons. And she talks about having a flow chart mentality. So if you go back and look at my spreadsheet for my schedule, you'll notice that I don't have any times written down. I decided not to try and start school at a certain time or finish at a certain time or even just keep lessons to a certain length of time. That happens pretty naturally with short readings. So when those interruptions come along and I have to go and change a diaper, then I just have to remind myself, we're just going to flow into the next thing. I'm just going to keep doing what's next on the list until we are done. So not feeling like I have to keep to a strict time schedule means I can relax a little bit when those interruptions come up, and I can just keep going when it feels like we're getting off track. The final thing that I did that I have found really helpful is I did not print 36 weeks of curriculum before I started. I printed 6 weeks. So 6 weeks of math, 6 weeks of schedules, 6 weeks of anything I was doing. Because I didn't want to change my mind about how I wanted it to work and then feel like I had messed up all of my plans. So over the first 6 weeks, I learned a lot, and we made changes, and I was able to go in and make those changes in my spreadsheet and print off versions that reflect what I've learned and really are a bit more true to what we're doing. So that flexibility has made it seem like a positive thing when things don't go to plan, because I've got the space to make those changes and to reflect it in what I have printed out. So it's just a little tangible way of reminding myself that nothing is set in stone, which I think is a really helpful way to approach a year 1 homeschool when you've got younger kids in the house. So I hope this video has been helpful for you. I would love to hear about your journey with year one, what you're doing now to get ready, or how things are going for you if you've already started. So leave a comment and let me know what you've got going on.